What is crazy for me in Indonesia, they have more meetups a month than there are days in the month. Bitcoin is forbidden to be used as payments there. It's illegal. And even though it's illegal to use as payments, people are striving. They want to learn about it. They want to get it as a tool for saving. Pessimistic or in a negative side of things, I don't want let's make sure to destroy the currency, destroy the economy. And that's what got most people into Bitcoin. That's not the most healthy way, but it's happening. So just being humble and having this mindset that it can happen to me as well. We still have to be, vigilant. We still have to be careful. That's the mindset that I think is more healthier than this can never happen to me. I suggest people to get back to the roots and use the stories to help our parents understand Bitcoin. For some people, Bitcoin can first solve the problem of let's make money, number go up, and later on maybe they will stay for philosophy, and maybe not, and it's not wrong. So these types of stories are really powerful ones for older generation to realize your money in the bank is not even there, it's not yours, and it's not even money. This is sometimes very powerful. Everything's great, man. I'm back to Slovakia, enjoying working on Bitcoin, doing education, so everything's good.
Really cool. You're from Slovakia, and also from I think the first time we've been on the podcast, you have been on some island. I forgot which one.
Roatan,
yes. So many people tell me about Roatan and Bitcoin, that they like the city so much for the freedom and everything. That's awesome.
Super interesting there. We can talk about that as well a bit. But yeah, I spent about 4 or 5 months of a year on Roatan in Honduras, beautiful Caribbean island. But I'm originally from Slovakia, so this is my home base.
Absolutely, really cool. And yeah, the first podcast has been a while ago. I think we've probably met 2, 3, 4 times in between. And it's been over a year ago.
That's true.
Maybe let's give us an overview of what has been happening in Bitcoin with you and everything in the last, let's say, a year.
Mm-hmm. So it was very interesting because when we had the podcast, I was at the time in El Salvador. You remember I was burned like crazy from the surfing and sun. But why I was in El Salvador was because of the Bitcoin Educators Academy that I was doing there. It was my second one right after the pilot in Slovakia. And since then, we already did more than 15 of them in 15 countries around the world. So this is something what we were really focusing on during last year. And I just returned a few days ago from Bali, from Indonesia, when we did our largest Bitcoin Educators Academy. And half of our graduates were immediately speaking the very next day on the Indonesian conference. And when they came after their speech and said, "Hey man, we applied what you were teaching to us last 3 days and it worked beautifully, and people were listening, they were asking questions." It was super rewarding, to see how they put the theory into practice immediately. So yeah, for the past year, Bitcoin Educators Academy was our main project. We traveled from US through Europe all the way to Indonesia and to Asia. And there's already more than 130, 140 graduates of the Educators Academy. And we are building this project. So we want to help educators get better at educating, better at communicating Bitcoin. And for this, we are building multiple workshops, physical academies, online resources. So this is kind of where my heart lies and where my passion lies a lot.
Really cool. I think I've also darkly remember that you have in Bitcoin Prague a presentation around how to educate your parents on Bitcoin, something like that.
Yes. This is what I'm struggling with and I'm encountering a lot. People tend to have hard time explaining Bitcoin to their family. Many times to their colleagues, it's different because you have more separation. But once it's a family, there's a lot of tensions, and especially with parents, you have these years of coexistence, and you have some grudges, maybe some anger somewhere. So many times it's very hard to explain to parents because you're like, oh, that's the old generation, they don't understand us, and so on. So the main topic of that speech, and I recommend people to watch it, was how we can use stories to really do the education. Instead of just throwing facts to people and just throwing a lot of jargon, a lot of, decentralization, blockchain, inflation, and everything that we already kind of know. Instead of that, using stories from around the world that explain why Bitcoin really matters. What's the problem and what the solution, how the solution might look like. And using examples. So because storytelling is the oldest educational tool we had, going around the circle of fire, sharing stories. This is how we were being educated for centuries and for millennia. So I suggest people to get back to the roots and use the stories to help our parents understand Bitcoin. So that was kind of my main topic there. Thanks to that, I managed to make my parents enter the Bitcoin rabbit hole. So my father is already selling his fig jams. We have a huge fig tree in our garden, so he's producing fig jam and he's selling it for Bitcoin. I was sending my mom recently some Bitcoin over Lightning because I bought her something, so we cleared out over Lightning. So yeah, I mean, with these tools and with patience and compassion, we can teach our parents how to enter the rabbit hole in a safe way.
Awesome. What have you heard? Like, what have you been experienced that the most compelling Bitcoin stories that you've heard? Things that like really where people get it.
For example, for every specific feature of Bitcoin, for every characteristic that really matters, I use different story. And one of the most powerful ones that can explain you that money in your bank is not your money and you should really have more control is the story from Lebanon. I don't know if you know about the guy who entered the bank with a gun. Have you heard that?
I know, but like there's many of those stories where they're like, hey, I want my money back, and they're going with the gun and basically committing crime, but they just want their own money.
Exactly. So that will happen a few years ago in Lebanon, and the guy, the banks were failing. They were not giving people's money. So this guy came to a bank, and basically he just wanted his own money for treatment of his father. His father was having cancer, and he needed to withdraw money to support him and to finance that. And the bank said, sorry, we can just give you a few thousand. So he wanted about $100,000 to withdraw, and the bank said 3,000. That's it. We will not give you more. The guy said, like, come on, guys, my father is dying. I need this money. It's my money. Our bank said, sorry. So he entered there with a can of gasoline, with a gun, with a rifle. And this whole drama lasted like 6 hours. And during these 6 hours, hundreds of people gathered around the bank, and not just to watch what's happening, but to really support him, to show that finally somebody did something about it. And when he get out, the bank gave him, I think in the end, a couple of thousands. I think it was 30 or something like that. He exited the bank and the police immediately took him. What could he expect? But then the bank dropped charges after a week, so he went free. And after this happened, after it was published, there was about 7 other people who did the same thing during the next week in Lebanon. Girls, guys, older, younger, because they also needed money for very specific things like medical treatments. And banks were like, oh my God, we can't handle this anymore. So they shut down for a few weeks. And I mean, this story is a story that helps people realize like, oh my God, money in my bank is really not my money. When I really need them the most and I cannot access them, it's just, I need to ask somebody. And if they don't say, if they say, sorry, we cannot give it to you for any weird reason, you're done. I know for some people, maybe mostly from Europe, it can be like, oh, that's too far away. That's Lebanon. But okay, we can go closer to Cyprus. 2012, 2013, people were trying to withdraw their money. And Cyprus, it's country like, pretty developed one. But bank said 60 euros maximum daily limit. So the cash was gone from ATMs super quickly, and even the bank cards were taken by the ATMs. So we can look at stories. The closer the story is to where the people live, where they know the environment, the better it really resonates with them. So these types of stories are really powerful ones for older generation to realize, your money in the bank is not even there. It's not yours, and it's not even money. This is sometimes very powerful.
That's a really interesting story. And as you said, like when people hear that, they're like, oh, like, that will never come to Austria. That will never come to my state in the USA. That will never come to like whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it will come. It's like, wait and see. Like this whole system is kind of set up to get to those failures eventually. Like I don't see another way around it.
It's a ticking bomb. I mean, maybe some countries will be wise enough and politicians will be altruistic enough to really give the power to people more and like realize that, okay, we cannot win against Bitcoin. So let's, incorporate it. Let's give people more power. But I don't think that will be the general case. And if we talk about civilized countries or first world countries, I mean, one of the examples is the truckers' protest in Canada, right? Some Canadians would say, oh, this will never come to Canada. Damn, look at what happened during the truckers' protest. People who support it, their bank accounts were frozen. They were being prosecuted. The stories of an old lady who sent like $20 and her bank account was basically shut down. She was being interrogated, investigated for $20. I mean, crazy stuff like that in countries like Canada. So is it never going to happen in US? I don't think so. I think it will. And I think our mindset should be to be ready if it happens in our country as well. I mean, the analogy, you were asking what happened in Bitcoin with me last year. I think last year in BTC Prague, I delivered a speech about why pirates are wearing eye patches. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe not. So we were having this pirate theme in BTC Prague, the pirate ship and everything. And there's a very nice analogy of why we should be like pirates and why we should, as Bitcoiners, wear eye patches. Because pirates are wearing eye patches not because they were hurt in a fight, just few of them, but the main story behind it, and the main reason was that they were always keeping one eye in the darkness, because when the fight got downstairs under the deck, they immediately swapped the eye patch and their eye was ready, so they were immediately seeing in the dark and having the edge in the fight. So having this kind of advantage immediately was like a super powerful hack that they were using. And in the same analogy, I think that's what we Bitcoiners are doing, because we are educating ourselves about Bitcoin. Learning self-custody, learning how to buy non-KYC, learning how to protect ourselves with seed phrase storage, and all these metal backup technologies that you're also participating and doing. But some of them we will not be using today, tomorrow, maybe in a year. But just having this toolkit is super powerful, because once shit hits the fan, we can flip the eye patch and we can use the tools immediately and having the edge over politicians, over the government, right? And this is, I think, what we should be doing. Even in countries where we feel like, oh, we don't have a problem yet, we are still living in a place where there's not a huge inflation, where I can access money in a bank. But having this mindset of, let's be ready and let's have the knowledge when the time comes, because when the time comes and I'm not ready, then it's too late. So kind of almost having this eye patch analogy being applied to us Bitcoiners.
Yeah, and I struggle a lot with that actually, because it is like freedom is nice to have till it isn't. This is nice to have till you all of a sudden see like, oh shit, like I should have this already.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that with all the Bitcoiners that I get onboarded here in Austria, because in Austria we have many studies and many how they call polls around the people show that they actually have a great deal of respect and a great deal of positive anticipation for the institutions here. So they don't think that the institutions will do something bad to them. They have trust in the institutions. And with that, self-custody is actually really, really hard, especially among my friends, where they like, I have my bank account. Okay. Like I have my Bitcoin account. I have the same password and username to both of them. It's the same thing for me. They just see like, it's a great store of value. They don't see the freedom aspect of it. I always make Bitcoin in those three buckets. The first pillar is kind of the number graph technology, the wealth that you're getting from Bitcoin. And then the second is the freedom. And then it's like, hey, I run my own node. I verify it myself. Hey, I have self-custody. I can take my Bitcoin wherever I want to. I can get paid from anyone. I can pay anyone. And this bucket I see is very hard amongst the non-hardcore Bitcoiner. Like the Bitcoiners that go on a Bitcoin get together once a month, they all get it. Like they all have self-custody. It's rarely someone that doesn't have it. But I'm talking about the ones that they educated in their friend circles that just like, oh yeah, buy Bitcoin here, use this exchange. Like, oh yeah, the exchange always had the Bitcoin, never went off there. And so in those parts of the world, it's really hard to make people understand those exchanges can go bust. The same with your bank account. Like it is just a number. They don't even have anything. They can just go bust and your, I don't know, 50,000 is no longer there, or like your 200,000 is no longer there. And if you talk with people, and that's why I love that I started doing it in English and not German. If you then talk with people from India, Africa, and many other countries where it's not that clear that the government is always on your side, which is never in any country clear, but like especially in those countries,
it is never on your side as well.
It's also never on your side. In some countries, they just pretend a little bit better.
Yes. They have better marketing.
And so they understand it a lot quicker. Like I've seen those things are really a regional thing where if you go in different regions, they get self-custody. Like, of course I want to have it myself. I never want to trust my bank. I was like, that's different from what I hear from my friends here in Austria.
Mm-hmm. Man, totally agree with you. I mean, when I travel and when we do education in Honduras, or when we did right now in Indonesia, and understanding the local problems, it's rarely about, let's just make money. It's mostly about, okay, this is a tool we need, like really need. I used to be, as an educator, my background is in teaching. I used to teach math, physics, and English. And during those days, but mostly when I entered Bitcoin, I got super passionate and I wanted to spread Bitcoin to everybody. I was very forceful. I was very like in every conversation, I had to make a person a Bitcoiner and a proper one with the philosophy and everything. Over time, I realized that I need to be more patient and I have to have more compassion with people. And even though I would like to take, let's say, my mindset of, why Bitcoin matters from freedom perspective and just implement it to somebody else's mind immediately and just like it clicks right there and that's it. It's never the case and it's never possible like that. People have different needs. They have different, they value things differently. And over time, I learned that for some people, Bitcoin can first solve the problem of let's make money, number go up. And later on, maybe they will stay for philosophy and maybe not. And it's not wrong. I don't want to copy myself. I don't want to be like everybody has to see Bitcoin just like I see Bitcoin. Everybody has to have the same benefit and see it the same way. Because when I've been like that, I was more stressed. I was more like trying to save everybody. I was coming from this savior's mindset. As the time goes, I'm more on the level of compassion and seeing that people maybe sometimes needs to go through some hard lesson. I used to have clients that they came to me and they were scammed by some crypto platform, right? Some Ponzi scheme. But it was impossible to show them that it's a Ponzi scheme. They just thought, okay, if I send this money that they're asking me, they will finally release my $100,000 that I made and send it back to me. Never was the case, of course. And few times I was not able to explain to people that they are getting scammed. I show them everything, how the scam works. And their reply was like, Dusan, but I have to try this one last time. I have to send this 3,000 euros to the guy because I think he will release my money finally. I'm like, okay, what can I do? I tried my best to explain them, don't send that money. It's just dripping into the black hole. No, they did it. And then I called them in a week and asked, okay, so did you get your 100,000? And the guy was like, no, but he's told me I need to pay this one more tax and then they will get me. I mean, so I realized over time, some people are not being able to be saved when you want to save them. And somehow I feel like they have to get that lesson. Only then they can move forward in their consciousness or awareness or how we can call that and get better as, to protect their own wealth. So, I'm kind of on this scale of going more into the place of compassion and the place of patience, where I think we cannot speed up the Bitcoinization in some way. And sometimes I see like the governments are speeding it up the most. Like we as educators, we are doing our best. We're recording podcasts. We're sharing it with the world. We're trying to help our family and friends. But sometimes when the government does something crazy, like, I don't know, blocking some accounts or messing up with some people or I don't know, some crazy regulations, that's what got people most to Bitcoin. So I'm kind of, again, on this scale of like, okay, does our work matter as educators? I still believe yes, because we can get people ready before the shit hits the fan. But in terms of adoption and the speed of adoption of Bitcoin, I think sometimes the governments and what they do and how they print money is speeding up the adoption the most, which is kind of, pessimistic or in a negative side of things. I don't want like, oh, let's make sure to destroy the currency, destroy the economy. And that's what got most people into Bitcoin. That's not the most healthy way, but it's happening.
The pain is a great educator, unfortunately.
Yes, it is. It totally is. And that's how kids learn as well. That's how we learn how not to touch fire. So learning through pain, I think taking it as a lesson is sometimes very powerful in Bitcoin. That's what got a lot of people into Bitcoin as well. Like they burn themselves crazily, and that's what got them. Okay, I finally need to have a tool, and then they were motivated enough to sit down and properly learn about Bitcoin and test the tools. So I wouldn't take pain out of the lesson. I would still feel that this is sometimes required.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is something where people have to learn. And I've had multiple friends, unfortunately, also that are getting scammed with crypto things. And it's like, oh, that there was already, in my opinion, a scammy coin, but the scammy coin had like subgroups or like other organizations that tried to scam them and like, hey, give me money, then you get access to the new beta launch sooner and stuff like that. And I'm like, how could you? Because if you look at on the hindsight, you're like, how could you fall for that? But if you look in the emotions in that very moment, and those scammers are getting very good with that, you're like, oh yeah, like I can totally understand why you click there and why you send the money there. Like it makes sense. And sometimes we need to go through this pain lessons and pay a price for a lesson to actually understand it. We sometimes have to touch the fire that we understand. Oh yeah, like I shouldn't touch it. It's hard that it will burn me if I touch it too much. And there's those two things where like either people come to Bitcoin, and I think most actually come because it's a shiny thing. It's like, oh, it goes up in value. Oh, the S&P 500 ETF gave me 8% the last couple of years, and Bitcoin made just in the last 10 months 80%. And I think that's what probably mostly gets people involved, at least me. But then there was also the pain thing of like, oh, I got rocked. Where could I be safe? And I think, I mean, if you understand that you're safe in Bitcoin, you've done some education. Like it's not like people need to understand Bitcoin on a quite good level to understand that this is the safe haven, because most people still see it as a speculation, I guess.
And it takes time. I mean, we cannot speed it up as well. Like you need to answer a lot of your own objections to really get to a place where you're comfortable enough to have everything or majority of your wealth in Bitcoin. It cannot happen just overnight. Like there's a lot of questions we need to answer, because within our education system, we are brought in a completely different way to trust institutions, to trust authorities, to don't question things. And we need to unlearn a lot of things initially, which creates a lot of space for uncertainty, right? And our brains, they don't like change. We evolved to hate change. I mean, hundreds of thousands of years ago, whatever made us survive 20, 30 years of life was probably like, okay, we are doing something good. We're not going into the grass because we think there's a little cat, and I go there and it's a tiger and it eats me. So whoever was not careful enough, or let's say was not afraid enough, was erased from the genophone, right? From the genes pool. But so we are descendants of people who were afraid, who didn't like the change, who weren't trying everything every day and were like going YOLO. So we inherited this, and it's okay to be skeptical, and it's okay not to try everything immediately, not to fall for everything, because those people who do, they got rocked. And if their wealth is erased, they might sadly be erased because they cannot, so in this way, it's good to be on the safe side. It's good to be skeptical. It's good to take some time to learn Bitcoin. So, and whoever wants to push those people, should get more into this mental state of patience that, okay, this person just needs time. So, and yeah, as you said, pain is a good educator. And I also like to say that all of us can be scammed. It just depends on context and circumstances. I like to remind myself to be humble, that even though I know decently a lot about Bitcoin, decently a lot about psychology and scams, I still like to remind myself that I too can be scammed one day, because maybe in those circumstances, in those mental state that I will be in that context, maybe it will be so sophisticated that, yeah, I will, looking backwards, I will be like, what the hell I was thinking, or why I did this. But seeing it from that perspective, maybe I already am getting scammed somewhere, which I don't know, right? It can also happen. Recently, a friend of mine, it's a mining company that's known, and they basically, there was a sophisticated scam performed on them, which he told me very briefly that it was a super long range attack, very sophisticated social engineering, and they lost a lot of money because of that. And very, very solid Bitcoiners, right? So from the outside, knowing that, you would be like, there's no way these people can get scammed. And they did, right? So it just requires a level of sophistication that you fall for. So just being humble and having this mindset that it can happen to me as well. We still have to be, vigilant. We still have to be careful. That's the mindset that I think is more healthier than this can never happen to me.
There is this great example that I bring up because I think they are greatly respected amongst the audience. It's Lynn Alden and Larry Lepar. Both of them fell for the same scam, where they
recently or in the very past.
Oh, it's been at least 5-6 months. It was in 2095, I think.
Wow.
Where Larry and I think Lynn Alden was also involved, but Larry, I'm very sure, but I think Lynn Alden also, where they lost the access to the Twitter account. And how they did it was they fake invited them to, interview, to like have them on a, I think Bloomberg show or something like that. And at that time, it was very nicely timed because Larry just brought out his new book. And so in this very week, he got requests probably like 20 times a day of like, hey, can you be in this podcast? Can you be on that and this and that? And he just clicked on there. And then there was a pop-up coming up that Twitter, that Google Calendar needs access to your Twitter API. Obviously, Google Calendar doesn't need access to your Twitter API.
Yeah.
And it looked like Google Calendar, it had a logo, it was the name on there and stuff like that. But it wasn't Google Calendar, obviously. And so they granted with API, the malicious software access to the Twitter API. And then they sent out some tokens or anything like that with his Twitter account. Because he granted it in that very moment. And the interesting thing that happened, and a lot of people said like, oh, like that's not Larry, that's a scam. Then they put out a lot of scammy things on other accounts with Larry's account. And with that, Twitter shut Larry's account down because Twitter all of a sudden thought that Larry's account is a scammer. And this is how I think he lost his access to his Twitter account for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And I bring this example up because I think a lot of people would look up to Larry and to his intelligence and to his achievements that he achieved. And I think Lynn Alden also fell for the same thing, but it's not as well documented. Larry really showed, I think, on Nostra, all the screenshots and everything, how it was working. And this just shows like, everyone can be scammed and be hacked and whatever, because those are sometimes highly targeted. And it was fun for me because I got the same scam like 5-6 times afterwards. And I was like, would I fell for it if I did not already know it? Because I knew it from Larry. Like Larry already showed us like, and then I got the same messages afterwards. So even though it was known, they still tried till it stops working, I guess. And I was like, it's actually a well-written Twitter message. The only thing that I always look, if someone invites me for a podcast, I always look how many people that I follow him. And in that case, nobody followed him. So this is a major green flag. If someone invites me on a podcast and nobody of the people that I follow him, I'm like, it's probably nothing good. Like if he has any sort of media outlet in Bitcoin, he probably is well known and he probably has a little few people that follow him. Usually if I go to Larry or anything, like usually like 300-400 people of my people that I follow him. So if you don't even have one, that's a major
red flag. Yeah. I mean, that's a good, like a decentralized reputation thing, or, this is how we can, this is kind of what I feel like there's still trust within our social circles that we use on a daily basis, right? We have this don't trust, verify. And yeah, you can say that the number of people following is a verification in this sense, but it's also kind of a network of trust. And this is how our societies were built over, again, centuries. And we still live as a social creature. So we kind of rely on if that person is following, if that person is, giving credibility to somebody. So we kind of rely on this chain of trust. So it's also, good to remind ourselves that maybe that can be sometimes misused as well, but we still operate in this level. We are not able to verify every single thing we're doing in our everyday life, because many things we just trust our friends, parents, relatives. So yeah, it's kind of interesting what things from Bitcoin we can apply and where are the limitations of the society.
I do love the watches from Coin Vigilante, but today I have a very special message, not from me, but from the CEO himself, Carlos from Coin Vigilante. Let's hear him.
To all the Robin Seyr podcast community, I'm Carlos Estrada from Coin Vigilante, and we're sponsors of the show, and we're going to give you a very special discount exclusive to you, 10% off your order at coinvigilante.com when you use Robin at checkout. We have really nice watches that you guys can buy right now for 10%. This is a transparency edition, beautiful watch. These watches are worn in over 55 countries and counting. This discount is just for you, exclusive to the Robin Seyr podcast. We have limited editions. We have limited productions. These watches come in very nice packaging, boxing material, and they are collector's item for Bitcoiners only. Enjoy the discount. Thanks for supporting the show and Coin Vigilante.
I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC-free Bitcoin. That's why I use simplemining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They're also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that. You can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I'm curious on your opinion on that because we just talked about Signal, and yesterday my mom texted me on Signal and I got so skeptical because my mom never uses Signal and she doesn't have Signal. She always uses WhatsApp. And I was like, is someone trying to scam me with my mom? And I was so skeptical. And I called her. I was like, are you using Signal now? And she's like, yeah, I texted you. And I was like, oh, okay, it was actually you. Probably
That's
because it could be AI,
Yeah.
Probably. And she also did not had any scams for me and did not want the money or anything like that. So this was also a green flag if it's just a message. But there's this thing of sometimes this being skeptical is also not good for mental health. If everything that happens, you're always like, oh, is that a scam? Oh, it's a weird kind of a system where you constantly have to, and especially I'm a very positive, optimistic looking, like I'm always looking out of the best in the world, best in the people. I always trust that people will not screw with me. And that's a very naive statement from an Austrian boy that hasn't been robbed or anything in his whole life. Like, I'm aware of that a lot of cruelties in the world never touched me, and this can change. And so from my trusting and positive nature, I'm very susceptible to scams. I don't know how. I've never fallen for any scam, but I'm very skeptical for that. And it's interesting when we have those different layers or this different balance of how skeptical are we and where we still are a positive person that can trust in things, that things work, because we always need trust. We always need to trust something, technology, another person. Like if we don't trust anyone, then we have to live in the woods and completely shut everything off.
Yeah, this is like a nice philosophy or like a nice question to really think about. How I have it in life, I'm very similar to you. I trust a lot of people. I'm looking at the positive side. I tend to be skeptical as well, and maybe sometimes too much. But finding that balance, what I tend to do, looking right now with my life, like with things that, for example, some people might rob me, right? Like I can lose money, but I'm trying to have the money that are accessible to be robbed in not such a way that will ruin me, right? So anything that somebody might misuse, let's say they will misuse my social media, like steal my account. I try not to be dependent on this thing that much that it will ruin me in some way. So I think the less dependency and the less it can hurt you when somebody does, I think the better for you as a human being, the more resilient and anti-fragile we are. So kind of this is how I tend to live. So even if somebody robs me, or even if somebody, mocks me somewhere or kind of misuse my trust, I tend to build my life in a way that it's not something fragile for me. It's not something like, oh my God, this is really ruining me in a way. Plus, on the other side, I'm trying to build my social bubble in a way where I can trust a lot. So really picking up friends, living in places where I want to live, with people I want to live. So, being around Bitcoiners is already a big filter for life. Because you already know that you are around people who see worlds very similarly to you, see values, see a lot of things very similarly. So that's already for me a life hack or life strategy to avoid being taken advantage of by hanging around a lot with people who understand and are around Bitcoin or are in the Bitcoin space. So also building life in this way is something that I tend to do. What happened to your mom, or like with the Signal thing, I would be also skeptical. If that would happen, I'm like, hey, I need to verify this. But it doesn't cost a lot of energy. So having the mindset which will be like, this idea pops up, you just verify super quickly. Hey, mom, let's have a call. That's, I think, a very good mindset to have. With Signal specifically, if we go slightly technically, you can exchange keys. You can scan your codes, your encryption keys. So there is no man-in-the-middle attack that can possibly happen, right? That's also a thing you can do with Signal directly. So when you meet in person, you exchange the keys, you scan each other's codes, and you know that once that person is writing to, it's really that person and not somebody in the middle trying to hack in, right? It's also, way you can use. But I don't have like a blueprint how to solve it. It's more like a discovering thing. I was also never hugely scammed. Maybe in the past, I lost like 500 euros to a guy who claimed that he will be, managing my money in some way. But this was when I was like maybe 18, 19 years old. So at the time, it was a lot of money for me as a student, right? So it really hurt me at the time. But over time, I tried to depend less and less on money and have multiple revenue streams in a way that if something happens, like if I lose all my Bitcoins, I'm trying to build my life in a way that I can very quickly, I can go on. I can just, okay, that happened. I can still produce value and sell my value to really not end up on the streets. So kind of building resiliency, that's, I think, like the general strategy to not being hurt when your trust is misused.
It's also interesting. I actually spoke about that in Vegas in the talks that we had in Bitcoin 2025, where in a world that we have AI and robotics, it will be super hard to trust anything. Where in AI just got started, like the large language models, like the AI videos, like this is barely the start of all of that. Mm-hmm. If you think about that in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, I don't think you will be able to see the difference between me speaking actually versus me speaking in AI. Like that, there will not be any difference, especially with people like me that have so much video material to actually, train an AI on.
Your model can be trained very easily.
I've literally, today is my 602nd podcast. So you have, each podcast is around 1-2 hours. So we are approaching 1,000 hours of me talking like that as training.
Great data set, Robin. Great data set for anybody who would like to replicate you. Even you can replicate yourself. So maybe in 10 years, I'm going to have podcasts with you, but at the same time, 15 other people will have the podcast with you at the same time, right?
I can then do every hour of the day a podcast. Like 24
That's
hours.
a milestone. That's a goal to aim for.
A 24-hour live stream. But the point I was trying to make is like, if we come to a world where you can't trust anything, then it's like, what value does Bitcoin in that world has? Because this is probably the only thing that you really can still trust. I mean, of course, there's other things that you can probably still trust, as like gold and physics and things like that. The only digital verification that you can really make in a world where everything is like, you have no clue. And even now with AI videos, it's sometimes crazy, but now you kind of can see if it's an AI video, like you kind of can tell, but that might not be the case. Bitcoin then might be the only digital thing that we can send around and say, yeah, that's 99.9999% secure, because like you cannot fake a Bitcoin signature that hasn't been out there. So I don't know. I think a lot about that. And also one thing I wanted to add is with the security, Bitcoin has such nice tools like time locks or multi-signature, where you can really say, hey, like 80, 90, 95% of my wealth is so hard to get to that even if someone actually comes in my house and threatens me, even if he slices me open, like I cannot give it to him. Like I'm physically unable to give him his request. Even if I really, really desperately want to, I cannot. And this is very powerful. So I think stealing Bitcoin from people in a physical attack, it's not that popular right now. And I think it will never be popular just because you have really great tools to prevent that, like really great tools. And then you break into someone's house, you try to get the Bitcoin out of them, but they cannot even give it to you. They don't even have the physical possibilities to give it to you. Like, what are you doing? You committed a crime and now you have to go home with nothing.
Empty-handed.
And people won't do that. People are smarter than that. They will be like, oh yeah, give me your gold. Here, you have a gold coin.
I mean, you opened up a topic that is interesting also to think about to the future, because if Bitcoin will grow in value and people like like people will be known that, okay, these were longer term in Bitcoin. I think tools like, let's say, Liana, Bitvault, and like super cool time locks and technical things are very good. I mean, what can be happening more, I hope it's not going to happen, but the kind of ransoms. If somebody takes you and be like, I don't care if you have Bitcoin, but if you're a person that people want to save, they will gonna pay for you. And this is like kind of hard to directly with multisigs and with technology to protect against, because they're like, yeah, I know you have all the multisigs. I don't care. I don't care about your Bitcoin. I care about other people's money because they care about you. And that's where multisigs are not helping, right? So I think for this, we have to physically protect ourselves and, having some self-defense mechanisms, being able to protect ourselves, let's say with arms, with guns. Or, what I like is Alena Vranova, the co-founder of Trezor. Did you have her on the show yet already?
No, I only had the CEO, Matej. I forgot his name.
Marek, yeah. Yes. No, I know. So I definitely recommend having Alena on the show because she's working on a project called Glock, which will be helping people. It's a subscription-based thing kind of for high net worth individuals in Bitcoin that, let's say you press a button and people will know that something's wrong with you, and there will be like a SWAT team globally, that can come and save you in some way, right? That's the vision. Very interesting. And this is actually for physical security. So I think we Bitcoiners, or people in general, should also think about these things, because we might think, oh, we're going to have tools, multisigs, time locks, that will protect my Bitcoin. Yes, that can be true. But when I was discussing with guys from Bitvault as well, we were discussing, okay, it's nice that you have a time lock for 15 days. But what if somebody keeps you for 16 days somewhere hidden, locked? Or what if somebody announced like, hey, I have this guy and, I want $1 million for him. What then? What's the plan at that moment when that happens, right? So this is kind of doomy, gloomy topic, maybe not as positive as we expected, but it's something that for people to think about and to, learn how to protect yourselves physically as well. Self-defense, carrying a gun, potentially, having these kind of tools available for you. If people know that you can mess with them, maybe they will pick a different target. So I think I kind of like when there are countries which allow people to carry guns, for example, like, let's say Switzerland, or even in Israel. I was very surprised. I don't want to go into this Israel-Palestine topic. When I was in Israel way before, maybe 10 years ago, when everybody goes through a military service and can handle gun, and they have this mindset of, protecting each other. A guy told me a story when he was just dining with his wife in their apartment, about a third, fourth floor, and suddenly they heard some shots. And his wife was like, oh, there's some fireworks out there, let's check it out. And the guy immediately know, like, okay, that's not fireworks. So they came out of the window, they looked downstairs, there was a restaurant, and there were two men shooting people, literally. One man got shot immediately by somebody from the restaurant. The other guy, his rifle got stuck. So he dropped the gun, he started to run. And my friend told me there were like 5 people running behind him, like immediately chasing him down, and they shot him like 100 meters down. If this happened in Slovakia, everybody would spread around because nobody around has guns. People are afraid, they don't know how to protect themselves. And in zones, when there are zones without guns, without permission to wear guns, those are the zones that the most damage can be created to. So I'm kind of a fan of people knowing how to handle guns, knowing how to protect themselves, because this can create a decentralized network of protection, of a physical security for us. So yeah, I mean, we should also not forget about these things whenever we talk about protection, not just technical, but also physical.
Yeah, physical security is probably the least talked about security aspect of Bitcoin ever within Bitcoin, because we talk about all these technical solutions, about everything you can do. And I mean, this is like most Bitcoiners still have no security at all. They just have their Bitcoin available on exchange. Then there's a smaller subgroup of people that actually have self-custody. Then I would argue then there's a even smaller subset of group that has good self-custody. Most people that have self-custody have actually a kind of bad setup. And then those people that also have some sort of physical security, at least thought about situations and what they would do in certain situations. Like, oh, like what if someone comes here? Or like, what can I do if two people attack me here? Do I have the physical capabilities? Do I have a gun? Do I have all those things in place? I think this is like a very small subset of people that are actually prepared for those things. And we probably have to increase those aspects. Like we probably have to increase those measurements for broader security. It's interesting. I have no clue how we ended up here, but I think it's a very interesting topic.
It is, man. It is. I mean, it's part of, if you want to be in Bitcoin and just, if you want to keep your wealth growing with Bitcoin, these might be the topics that you want to discuss. I have friends who are Bitcoin OGs, who you would know as well. And they told me they are stopping to go to conferences. They are refusing all the speaking slots because they told me, look, man, if somebody want to do some ransom and shit, like the Bitcoin conferences are the best places because there you have everybody at the same time in the same place publicly announce they're going to be there. Again, I don't want to be pessimistic in this sense, but what they said, it's kind of true in a sense, right? And I objectively trust that they are afraid, and they told me, they don't want to, want to have a lower exposure. So it's something, if you want to live a peaceful life, and this is the things that we should also discuss and kind of be on the balance where we want to be public to inspire others to go into Bitcoin, to tell the world, to really show them the benefits. The other, be more aware of our protection, our family's protection, kind of have a good mix of all of these things and just talk about it. It doesn't mean that we have to, paint gloomy pictures and be super, doomsday guys, but just opening up topics that might be taboo slightly, that might be not discussed well. I think it's important. So definitely I recommend checking, Alna's project, having her on the show, discussing that, because she's a great person to talk about that as well.
Awesome. We'll do that. Maybe one thing, because we talked about Bitcoin adoption as kind of the last topic of today. How psyched are you on how Bitcoin adoption is going? Because there's like two different sides to it. We have a lot of institutional adoption, and I don't feel the same retail adoption that I felt 2021. I mean, it does come with advantages because we don't have this NFT boom and like those weird noises in there, but we also don't have the excitement where a lot of people call and all of that. Like maybe it's different for you, but how do you look at the current like Bitcoin development and how fast or slow things?
Well, I'm traveling a lot for the last year since we had our last show, and mostly to countries, or I mean, in general, to multiple countries. What I see, there is a demand for people to spread Bitcoin, but the adoption, it's slower than I would like to see, of course. We are doing a lot of work in Africa right now. We are mining there in Ethiopia. We are exploring opportunities in Nigeria for mining. I just returned few weeks ago from Uganda, where we might be doing a project of reducing community waste, reducing the landfills, and producing electricity and Bitcoin from that. So I'm traveling to African countries where I see a lot of demand to learn. A lot of people are like, hey, I want to know this tool. Indonesia was the same. Like, what is crazy for me in Indonesia, they have more meetups a month than there are days in the month. Can you imagine? They have, I think, like 36 meetups a month already on every island almost. Bitcoin is forbidden to be used as payments there. It's illegal. And even though it's illegal to use as payments, people are striving. They want to learn about it. They want to get it as a tool for savings. It's still legal for savings, for trading. But if you want to pay, sometimes when there's somebody accepting Bitcoin, you cannot say, I want to pay with Bitcoin. You have to say, I want to redeem my Bitcoin. I want to exchange it. I want to redeem as like a community points, right? So it's very interesting how they kind of go around and then they find ways how they can do it. But there is a huge kind of demand for like, hey, let's do it. On the other side, we are still in the bubble. I travel to places that are Bitcoin, that are already painted orange. So if I go just outside of that and I try to ask 20 merchants, hey, will you accept Bitcoin? They're like, I don't know. No, sorry. So if we measure it this way, we're still very, very early, right? But I'm very relying on the adoption curve being more, how to say, not asymmetric, but about accelerating in a way.
Exponential.
More exponential, that's the word, yes. More exponential. So the exponential takeoff is still to come, I think. We see it multiple times, more new waves of people coming in. But again, if I sit back and go into the mindset we discussed about like patience, compassion, I don't feel anymore the urge to speed up things. What I feel like, I want to use my time in the most efficient manner to help people get into Bitcoin. Our goal is to bring 10,000 Bitcoin educators into the space, give them tools, skill sets, knowledge, soft skills to go out and become full-time educators. And on average, if every of them influences and inspires and ignites the spark of other 10,000 people, we got into 100 million people. So our mission of METH is basically to bring to the Bitcoin rabbit hole as many people as there are Satoshis in one Bitcoin. 100. And 10,000 times 10,000 is 100 million. So that's kind of the educational goal. To support it, that, we use Bitcoin mining, we use OTC, we use other services and products for that. But initially, my KPI, my goal was to do it by 2030, right? Because I was like, okay, I have to have a measurable goal. But the more the time passes, the more I'm like, I don't think it will happen till 2030 that we can really do it. I don't think that it has to happen. And I feel like if we have a North Star that we are aiming to, that's enough for me. And I don't need to measure everything, and I don't need to be stressed like, Jesus, I need to get to the number as fast as possible. Again, I'm trying to really go from this place of compassion and patience. And I think that's what works most, because suddenly when you're speaking to people, you're more in the present moment. You're more listening to what they are saying instead of you ticking a box. I need to orange pill this person. You don't have that motivation. You suddenly have a motive of understanding where they are. And maybe at that day, you will not orange pill them. You'll not tick your box. You'll not fulfill your milestone. But you're going to have a very interesting conversation, and you will listen to that person and understand better where they come from, and understand, oh, maybe for these people, this tool might be better. So yes, I don't see adoption going as fast as I initially wanted to in general, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay because we need to maybe fix our other things in our lives, and then the Bitcoin can come in. So I'm more chilled out recently, or for last past year, than I've been before, and I don't need to speed up. I don't feel we need to speed up the adoption in some crazy way.
And there's a good possibility that I think we should also not, how do I say that? I think Parker Lewis I had on just a week ago, where he talked about this gradually then suddenly moment. And I think there are such big forces at play. As you said, we as educators, we try to educate people on Bitcoin, but then what is actually driving people into Bitcoin? If governments print more money, and they will find more reasons to print money. And then those market forces are so big that all of a sudden hundreds of millions of people come into Bitcoin, and we're like, oh, we cannot even educate all of them because there are too many. And I think that's probably more how it happens, where all of a sudden a stream of people come in. But yeah, it was so great speaking with you. It's been always a pleasure. We have one question that I ask each and every one of my returning guests, as you are. And the question is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance?
Wow, that's a good one. Okay, I will use this one. Today is Monday, so just 3 days ago, I had my first drumming concert in my life. I started drumming about 8 months ago, and I just fall in love with that. So we had this absolvent or like graduate concert where it was crazy, where like 200 people were on the concert, family, friends from each and every one of the students. Originally we had to be 22 students. So each and every one pick up the song that we played. One couldn't make it, so it was 21. And I was like, oh my God, what a number. 21 students during the evening. And I was the 21st. So I was the last one. Initially, we didn't know when we're going to go. So they just told us a few minutes before. So I was going as the last one. And imagine this, like there is this kind of famous band in Slovakia. And I was learning song from them because their drummer was teaching me. He was part of the school that I was attending, and he was teaching me their own song. So I was like, I just want to learn your song, right? So he was teaching me. And in the end, he left the school. But I asked him, hey, can you come to the concert? He was like, no, maybe yes, maybe no. But in the end, he came and he sang the song with me while I was playing the drums. He was singing his own band song, right? So there was such a powerful moment for me. And it was just a few days ago. We super loved it. Me and Diana was also there with me, my girlfriend. She also played drums. She played Pink, the song named Try. And it was a blast, man. So this is something I fell in love with for the last few months. I want to pursue that. And I told Knut Svanholm that one day I want to play with you in Satoshi Okamoto, and I want to play the drums. So that's what I'm striving for. And that's what I'm going to be,
I'm already looking forward to hearing that. That sounds awesome. So you learned the drums. That's incredible, man.
Thanks.
Really
Thanks,
cool.
Brother.
I also started learning the drums when I was like, I don't know, 8 years, but I only got to like 1 year of learning. So I have no clue how to do it now, but maybe I have to pick it up later again. We have an end routine in the podcast, as you know, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, imagine the ideal Bitcoin world. What would your day in a life look like?
So playing the drums was part of the day. My ideal day, how would it look like? I want to spend it with family. Probably I would do some gardening, because when we've been in Indonesia, right now in Bali, during the Bitcoin week, we did a gardening session, and I was like so hooked in that. We've been planting salads with Diana, and in this community garden, it was so tranquil. It was so beautiful. So I was like, maybe I'll just, having my own garden with Diana. I would have an amazing morning tea ceremony, drinking green tea, having a beautiful time with my family, just walking in the sun, having a call with Bitcoin friends from around the world, maybe delivering a session, doing some workshop, reading a book during the day, having a very good food, very good steak. And in the evening, just having a little walk with Diana, then making love and taking a very good 8-hour sleep.
I love that. It sounds like a lovely day. Yeah. Thank you so much, man, Dusan, for being on the podcast. And also, before I let you go, where can people find you and ask you questions?
So I'm trying to go out of social media slightly, but I still check Twitter and LinkedIn from time to time. So if you go to LinkedIn, Dusan Matuska, you can write me there, or Twitter, Dusan_Matuska. So that's where I post from time to time something what we did. But meth.com is our website where we, do mining education. So if somebody is interested in what we're doing in the Bitcoin world, meth.com is the place to learn more.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being on. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.